Hello, welcome to another episode of the Talking Rangers podcast. Today is Wednesday, June 26th. It is episode 34 of the Talking Rangers podcast. I guess this is kind of the first podcast of the offseason. I know we did one when the season ended a couple days after they were eliminated by the Panthers, who now went on to win the Cup. But this podcast is kind of the first official one, breaking down what's to come here in the offseason with free agency right around the corner. You've got the draft here over the next couple nights, and also a couple moves that the New York Rangers have already made with Kakko extension and Barclay Goodrow being placed on waivers, and he was claimed by the San Jose Sharks. So we'll break it all down. Joe, long time, no pod, I guess. Been a couple weeks, but the NHL season's officially over. It's the off season for every team now, and off season, really, it's kind of weird this year. Off season is going to kick up here and start up here really, really fast over the next week or so.
Yeah, it's like really short. I mean, we were saying before that it was literally Monday. It was the finals. Then Thursday, Friday, the draft, or Saturday, the draft.
Saturday, I think, yeah, Friday.
And then Monday opens up free agency. So really quick turnaround, especially for the teams in the finals, where, I mean, the Panthers probably don't care because they just won, but yeah. Oilers, really quick turnaround. You know, you lost in the finals, game 7, and now you got to figure out what you're doing this year. But you know, it's not going to be a very long off season, but we'll have like next couple weeks of stuff to talk about. Obviously, draft free agency, any trades, and then there'll be a little bit of like a dead period in August.
Yeah, and before you know it, training camp will start up. That's the one benefit, I guess, with going, and the Rangers are playing hockey into June this year. The one benefit is you're not waiting from April to September. You'll start up some of the preseason action, which I know isn't the same, but it's still hockey. It still kind of signals the beginning of the season, and of course October shortly thereafter. So there's still a couple months out, but yeah, these next couple weeks are pretty big into July. Pretty important. Now, before we get into all that, the Stanley Cup did conclude. The Panthers, of course, 1-7. Almost were on the opposite end of a historically bad 3-0 blown lead reverse sweep. But Edmonton couldn't get the job done. They fall 2-1 in game 7. I'll tell you what, watching this game, I'll be completely transparent. I didn't watch any of the first 6 games. I just didn't, with the Rangers losing the Eastern Conference Finals. Last year with the Rangers lose, I didn't watch 2022 either. I didn't watch the Cup when the Rangers lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. Last year when the Rangers lost in the first round, I watched the Cup because it was kind of like the Rangers loss was so far behind us. At that point, they already fired Gallant. It was like a new chapter. Yeah. You already moved on from that. So I watched the Cup last year. This year, I'll be transparent. I didn't watch the first 6 games. I did watch game 7 because if you're a hockey fan, even if you're just a sports fan, game 7 of any of them 4 major championships on the line, of course, not including the NFL because there is no game 7, but game 7 of an NBA and NHL MLB, I think most fans, even if you don't care, you don't have a dog in the fight, are going to watch. And it kind of made the Rangers loss sting even more. Watching that game, seeing the Panthers go around with the Cup and seeing it over the last couple of days, all the celebration. Because if you're a Ranger fan, you lose to the Stanley Cup champions, and it's kind of what we all believed was the Eastern Conference Final in a way was the Stanley Cup. Whoever won that would go on and win the whole thing, and of course Florida did. And I don't know, predetermined outcomes. I don't know if the Rangers would have ended up getting to 7 with the Oilers or whatever, but it just once again kind of reaffirms, I guess, that the Rangers, all they had to do was get past Florida, and they would have took home the Cup, and we'd be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like it's all like, hypotheticals. Like you never know, but I personally believe that the Rangers were better than the Oilers. I think their style of play would have allowed the Rangers superstars, if you want to consider like Panarin and Zibanejad superstar players, to play to their level where there'd be more like open ice and it wouldn't be as much, grindy type hockey. And obviously, I mean, Bobrovsky was brutally bad in some of those games. I don't think we'd see Igor play to that level ever. He's just been too consistent, too good in the playoffs. I think the Rangers would have beaten them, but it would have been close. But again, doesn't matter. All hypotheticals. Playoffs is over. Obviously it sucks. As you said, couple weeks where we kind of were able to get away from it. The sting has kind of worn off of losing, but so now it's a huge offseason for the Rangers. Obviously, we're going to get into it, but I guess we can. Like, I don't know if you want to have anything else really about like the finals or kind of.
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, just other than McDavid obviously winning the Conn Smythe, which was just the 6th time that's happened. Only the second skater to do it. Since 1976. What was your thoughts on that? I just quickly there, and then we can obviously get into what this podcast is really about. But it's kind of caused some conversation over the last couple weeks, or over the last couple days rather, in the NHL world about the Conn Smythe Trophy. People look, it hasn't happened since 1976. Like, I don't think this is something that needs to change, but it was interesting to see a player from the losing team, of course, win it. McDavid had playoffs, and that's the thing. Like,
he didn't come out.
Yeah, he didn't, which I wouldn't have either. It would have been bad luck.
Yeah, the guy and the last guy to do it came out, and you ever see it? They lost to the Devils. It was the Ducks. It was a goalie. I don't remember his name.
The goalie.
And he was so bad. That's a bad look.
Terrible.
That would have been like a meme. You know what I mean? Because if he never won a Stanley Cup, they would always have that picture of him.
Yeah, it'd be awful. And McDavid too kind of basically said it in this press conference after the game. He was like, "It's an honor, but we didn't." Like, he basically said, "I couldn't care less. Like, I do not care that I got that." Which, I would rightfully so. Yeah, if I came back from down 3-0, got to Game 7, lost by 1 goal, and I won the Conn Smythe, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, I think he deserved it. I mean, let's be honest. No one really, if someone really, separated themselves.
If he didn't have those 2 bad games, he probably would have won it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was not really anybody. It was like him and Barkov were like kind of close, but at the end of the day, like McDavid said or was inferring, it doesn't matter. Like, I'd take 1 Stanley Cup over 10 Conn Smythes if that meant, if I didn't win those cups, the Conn Smythe Trophy really means nothing. To be honest with you, no one cares.
Yeah, I agree, and you hear people that are saying, "Oh, well, they should change it." I've seen some people say, "Oh, they should create 2 trophies, one for the entire postseason, one for just the cup." Well, most likely the guy that's great throughout the postseason is probably going to win the cup.
Technically, I think it is playoff MVP, but they're not going to give it to someone that didn't, get to the finals. Number 1, number 2.
Well, yeah,
like you were saying, like most likely the guy who plays well throughout the playoffs is going to be your guy in the finals. But I guess a good example of maybe that was in 2014, where Gaborik, I think, was the best player in the playoffs, but obviously Justin Williams had some massive games in the finals. But it's an interesting. Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Either winning,
it's just it happened for the first time in a long time, and now everybody wants to change it. But yeah, feel for McDavid, feel for Edmonton. I mean, to get that close.
Oh my God, dude! If that was the Rangers.
Oh, I wouldn't recover from a Stanley Cup final loss.
What would be worse? What would be worse? The feeling of losing in the Game 7 or blowing a 3-0 lead and losing? Or it's probably worse.
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
well, that's a stupid question, because in 3-0 series blown, you would lose in Game 7. But
you mean like be the Panthers situation where you would blow a 3-0 lead? Or Edmonton, where you come all the way back? No, I'm
just saying just in the general sense of losing in a Game 7. But, I mean, you would lose in a Game 7 if you blew a 3-0 lead. But
yeah, no matter how you lose in a Game 7.
If the Rangers were in the Panther situation, I would, I say this a lot about sports, I would at least take a year off from watching the Rangers.
If they blew a Game 7, 3-0?
Blew a 3-0 series lead in the finals. That's something you don't recover from.
Yeah. No, you never live that down. Even when you win another one.
I was just gonna say, even if they won the next year, it would have been like, but you should have won.
Well, if they won the next year, you'd be fired up. But other people would never let you live it down. Let's be honest. Like the Yankees, for example, they'll never live that down. That 2004 blowing 3-0.
It wasn't the finals
against the Red Sox.
It wasn't
in the finals, but it ended the curse of the Bambino. It kind of. The rivalry hasn't been the same to this day. Letting the Boston go into Yankee Stadium, win Game 7 to go to the World Series, win the World Series that year, like it was brutal. They'll never live that down. Still to this day, people talk about it. Same thing with the Rain. Now, Stanley, ALCS compared to Stanley Cup, a little different, but I mean, it's very painful too, though, for Edmonton's perspective. I mean, you go down 3-0, you do all the work to come all the way back.
You have all
The
the
game's
momentum
tied.
too.
Stuart Skinner kind of lets in a softie, probably one he wants to get back.
Yeah.
You lose 2-1. I mean, that is because they gave you hope,
Whatever.
But
season's over.
That's one thing, though. At least the Rangers were not involved in this from a bad way, where they would have blown a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, well, I guess now we can kind of transition to the first major move.
Yeah, we'll go in order of what happened.
Yeah, I guess technically, you can go in order.
Kakko first, then we'll go to Barclay, Goodrow, because that's kind of the order it happened. So Kakko, really just a kind of, not really, I guess a little bit of a surprise. Look, it doesn't 100% mean Kakko is still going to be on this team next year. Still some people that maybe believe that he could still be dealt, but they did extend him. It's a 1-year deal worth $2.4 million. Obviously, last year, we'll give you the numbers here. Last season, 61 games played, 13 goals, 6 assists, 19 points. In the playoffs, he only had 2 points in 15 games. So kind of a little bit of a surprise for me, at least, to hear this news. I thought, and still very well could happen that both sides still move on. But I thought it would probably be best if both sides potentially move on. But if not, well, he's extended and he'll be back for another year and another chance to prove himself, because so far through the first couple of years, he hasn't been able to do so, especially after seeing Lafreniere take the jump. We've said it countless times last year. We'll say it again into the offseason. Kakko's got to take a jump. So what was your thoughts on this move? And then, of course, still his future, which is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I say first thing is first is that, like, people that are mad about this are morons. Okay, they're like, 2.4. Yeah. Number one, this was his qualifying offer. So they had to give him this offer, or they would lose him for nothing. So they literally gave him the bare minimum. It's a good contract. It's a 1-year deal for 2.4 for a guy that, in a prove-it year, like you kind of said, like, it's not guaranteed that he's going to be on the team. Maybe he gets traded. I don't know. I think that they should probably, my personal belief, I'm still pretty high on him as far as just being a good NHL player that can play in the top 6. I think it's just a matter of confidence and playing time. And he still hasn't, in his career, had consistent playing time in the top 6. He jumps around. He plays with probably the worst 2 players in the league playing together at 5-5, which is Zibanejad and Kreider when he does get that playing time. So it's not his fault. I think that they should. My thing is for him is I'd hold on to him, and I'd give him top 6 minutes. Personally, what I would do is Zibanejad's not going anywhere. None of these guys are going anywhere. We can maybe discuss it a little later, but none of their guys are going anywhere. They're going to keep everybody in this core, even Trouba, for some people that don't want to hear that. I personally would get rid of him, but I think he's going to be here. With the move of freeing up the cap, where, again, we're going to get into that soon, but the Goodrow money, they maybe will able to get a guy that can play on the top 6 wing with Zibanejad and Kakko. I would move Kreider down to the 3rd line, but they're probably not going to do that. And I think it'd be a mistake not giving Kakko top 6 minutes, because you're going to lose him for nothing, because he's not going to really be able to produce at a high level on the 3rd line. I do like Hedl, so maybe a full season of Hedl, you'll see his numbers be pretty good, because he played last year fully with Hedl, right, on that 3rd line, and he had 40 points. And he was pretty good. But as far as that, I think the deal's good. I think they have to just come up with a role and commit to it. He's going to play top 6 minutes the whole year, and if he's not, then I don't know.
Yeah, the whole Kaapo, it's been very interesting, as we all know. It's kind of been a complicated relationship. I mean, you go back 2 years ago to the playoffs, he's a healthy scratch. He's a healthy scratch again this year in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals against Florida. It's just like from the playoffs to inconsistent minutes to the,
and he gets hurt a little too.
Line. Yeah, the hurt. Yeah, injuries as well. This year, of course, was missed a lot of time. I mean, I thought it was an injury that at first looked like he might be done for the entire year, but ended up coming back. Only ended up missing 21 games, which were 20 games. Yeah, 21, I think. Yeah, which is still a lot, but not as much as I think most people originally thought when he went down. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I did see this report, which is interesting. Just I guess as if the Rangers do decide to move up or move on from him, Larry Brooks reported. I don't know if this will actually happen, But he said this is sort of a sell low scenario, but sources report that Drury is also attempting to use Kakko in conjunction with the club's own 30th overall selection to move up in the first round.
What do you think they would be able to move up spots-wise? Like 10 picks, maybe? Is he worth a 20th
I think they could
overall pick?
I mean, you could probably get inside the top 20, right?
Maybe. It just depends on what the market is for him. I know a lot of teams are probably down on him, or know the Rangers are, so maybe I wouldn't trade him for a draft pick. I think that would be counterintuitive, especially for a win-now team.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like it's all kind of a crapshoot after like the 10th pick. Even the top 10 could be kind of like nothing is guaranteed. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And with a team like this, you're not going to see a prospect being able to flourish because they're not going to get enough playing time ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to see them trade him for maybe like package that for like a roster player. Nothing in the draft.
Yeah. Somebody that could help you now. Mm-hmm. I'd prefer that. I agree. I would prefer somebody where you can move on from Kakko, let him get more minutes elsewhere, get an opportunity to flourish elsewhere, get a new beginning, and then the Rangers get a guy that can help them now as opposed to relying on prospect.
Or maybe they could do something where it's kind of like you get a player like Kakko in the kind of the same scenario where he's not really flourishing and you kind of just swap him.
Yeah, because the draft scenario is you move on from Kakko, he flourishes, you get a prospect he never even plays. And then you're kind of looking back on the trade, and it's like, yeah, this isn't working.
Yeah, that would make that would probably be the worst case scenario for me.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. It's it's a guy that's 300 games in his career, 57 goals, 60 assists, 117 points. If he it's a perfect 1 year prove it deal, right? You mentioned qualifying offer. It's the perfect deal for him. It's an opportunity for him if he does remain here to prove his worth. I think Lavalette kind of mentioned it at the end in his postseason or his exit press conference that, it's not just Kakko, but I think it's the coaching staff too. Everybody, all parties have kind of had a hand in his inconsistent development as a player. And we'll see what happens. I don't know. I just don't know how much. I just don't think personally, and it's nothing against Kakko. I just don't think Kakko will ever end up turning out to be much here than what he already is. I think he kind of is what he is. He's entering year 6.
It's crazy.
I don't know. It is crazy. Time flies. 2019 seems so long ago. I don't know if it's because of COVID, but 2019 seems like it doesn't seem long ago. It seems like
it doesn't seem as long as it is.
It doesn't seem it's long ago, but it doesn't seem as long.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting situation. So you now move on to Barclay Goodrow, and this is where again the Rangers cap-wise get some help. So they move on from Goodrow, and they say he had 3 years left on a 6-year deal worth $21.85 million. So they save $3.6 million against the cap with this move. He goes to San Jose. He spent the first 5.5 years of his career with the Sharks before going to Tampa, and then now, of course, before going to the Rangers. So he was actually with San Jose for some of those playoff runs they had. He goes now back to San Jose, except they are a rebuilding kind of non-competitive. I don't want to call them a disaster, but they're non-competitive. They're not trying to contend anytime soon. So he goes there. Rangers save money. I think this is a good move for them. We'll always remember Goodrow's 16-game playoff, though. 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points, and regular season in 80 games, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points. So he had 6 goals, more goals, and just 2 less points in 16 games opposed to 80 games. So thank you, Goodrow, for your services this postseason. And now he can go rot on San Jose, where he won't even sniff the postseason. But he's gone. So I think this is good move for the Rangers. Move on, save some money on the cap, $3.6 million. What was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good playoff player. Don't get me wrong; he's someone you want on your team in the playoffs. But I mean, to basically do nothing in the regular season and having that $3.6 million cap hit for the next 3 years, it was kind of unacceptable for that to be on the team, especially if you had some holes that you needed to fix. And like we said, like let's be honest, was he really going to play any better in the playoffs than he did this year? Probably not. So, and they didn't win. So his best effort wasn't good enough for the team overall. And it's huge to get the $3.6 million. Like now they're going to be able to probably keep a player that they weren't able to keep. Maybe that's Lindgren or something like that. Or maybe you can look at it in a way that they can go out and get someone now. But he was good. He was a good Ranger, good in the playoffs, but again, he didn't have a big enough role where it was like worth keeping him on the team. And I'm shocked that they didn't have to give up anything for him. They found a way to get rid of like the loophole. He had a no trade. So from a lot of sources that heard that he was pissed because they were not on his trade list, the Sharks, and the Rangers like found like a loophole around that.
Yeah. No, yeah, they were. Yeah, they weren't. And it's just for him go from playing. And there's actually been some reports too. I know you just mentioned it, but even there's been obviously the reports, and even Mike Greer has mentioned. I think he mentioned in a recent interview he did his pre-draft press conference that like when he talked to Goodrow, he was still in like shock, still disappointed over the sudden release hitting waivers. I also think it's more so he went from playing for the New York Rangers to go and play for the San Jose Sharks, who are just bottom feeders right now. So that was a rude awakening for him after a good postseason. But yeah, like you said, his best effort wasn't enough. Another year falling short. I just going back to Kakko. Do you think he's on this team this year? You think they stick with him? Like your prediction, I guess. Or do you think they still end up moving on? Because I think they'll stick with him. Although I think
if they get someone on the caliber of like they get like a Patrick Kane or like a Gensel or someone that's going to be making decent. Well, Patrick Kane's not going to make a lot of money, but if they get someone like Gensel, or they're going to pay him like $6+ million, I think they're going to get rid of him. If they kind of bring in someone like Kane on a little bit of a cheaper deal, where they have more flexibility with that position, I think he will be on the team. If I had to say, I'd say yes.
Okay. I agree. I think he'll probably stay in the team, but I wouldn't be opposed.
Does he get traded at the deadline? That's a question for you.
Yeah, I could see if he's not producing and the Rangers need help, I could see them packaging him to go elsewhere, take a good player from a team that, could look towards some youth. I could see that. I could 100% see that. And maybe that's the way the Rangers will view this. You bring up a good point. It's kind of see what you can do during half the year next year. And when March comes around,
you have like a 40 game, prove 40
game
and if you
tryout in a way. And if you're not producing and, whatever the case may be, you don't ever want to talk about injuries, but like, let's just say it would kind of throw a wrinkle into it. Like, let's say I don't even want to say that. You hope that there is no injuries, but like, I guess the only thing with that would be is if they do try and roll with him for this year, then if he does suffer another injury, I don't know what his value would be at the deadline at that point, but that's kind of I don't know. That's not going to happen. But either way, yeah, I could see that. Give him a 40 game, like you got until March. Show us what you can do. If you can't, you're out of here. And I could see that. And maybe that's the way the Rangers view this. They'll see what they can get in the offseason. If not, if they don't love anything, then they'll wait for the deadline, where next year's deadline would be pretty important for the Rangers in terms of making another cup run with this core. But you kind of mentioned, I guess, free agency, and we can get into that now because that's what'll be a good portion of the show. The Rangers, it'll be interesting to see what Drury's approach is with this.
I guess I've been here for that. I kind of wanted to get this before we kind of went in depth here. It was like, what do you think he's doing right now? Because like he still has to re-sign.
Yeah, Schneider
and Lindgren. Like those guys aren't re-signed yet.
Yeah.
I'm still. You think?
Yeah, I think it'll. I mean, ideally, right? Comes before what? Free agency.
You hope, but that's only what, like 6 or 5 days.
Got until Monday, so 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm still wondering. I think they'll get the deal done. Maybe. I mean,
I feel like the Schneider deal should be a lot easier.
Yeah, than Lindgren, 100%. The Schneider deal should be similar to what they've given Lafreniere and Kakko in the past.
And Miller. Maybe a little bit less money than Miller.
But it should be very similar.
Yeah.
Lindgren's a little different, but Schneider should probably be done. I'm still wondering what they're going to do with True, because I know you've talked about that. I don't see how True is back on this team. From my standpoint, he's going to be back, but I don't see why.
It's just, I think next year will be the year that they get rid of him.
Oh,
I think this is his last year.
So they'll let him go out there next year, play terrible in the playoffs, and then when we lose again, they'll say, "Oh, 2026, don't worry."
Then they'll get rid of him.
They're never, dude. He is so much of a liability. I don't think. And look, I'm not saying you're going to lose a cup or lose in the playoffs just because of one defenseman, but my God, they were pretty close to doing that this year. He was awful, terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a liability the last couple of playoff runs. I mean, he was really bad in 2022 in that series against the Lightning. But it's kind of a moot point where you just kind of have to, deal with it. But so you're not really going to have that much money as far as cap space, I think.
You think him being has anything to do with it?
No, not at all.
So.
It's more because it was cap hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. He's not. He's a terrible contract. Not a very good defenseman.
Yeah, brutal contract.
And
thank you.
Hey, look, every team's kind of got one of those. There's more majority of teams that always has one of those kind of that dead contract or not. Yeah, it's
bad contract, kind of like
contract.
An albatross.
They kind of just have to deal with. Trouba feels like that. Free agency wise, what do you think the Rangers' approach will be? I mean, you think they swing big for like a Jonathan Marchessault or somebody like that?
Actually, I think they're going to go big in free agency. They're going to. Well, first off,
can I say one guy that I 100% believe is going to be a Ranger?
Yeah.
Again, I would put a lot of money on it right now. Patrick Kane's going to be back.
So then maybe they won't put big. Then you think not big money then, because he's not going to get that much money.
He won't get much money, but you could see a world where they go get Patrick Kane and another. No. I just think Patrick Kane's going to be here. I mean, it's not a huge signing, but it's a name.
I think he can kind of get you to the deadline, and then again, I mean, you're not going to get rid of him, but like it just depends on like how the team's working matching at that point. I think you do need a kind of a scorer and a perennial playoff guy, which he is. Again, a lot of people are talking about like grit, but I just think that you can't pass him on someone who's been proven in the playoffs. And to be fair to him, with one leg in 2023, he did produce.
Yeah. He's healthy now, which is most important.
And he wants to be here.
I wasn't exactly. And I think, and that's the thing too, that I wasn't so much on the Patrick Kane train last year when he was a free agent at the beginning of the season.
Because you didn't know.
Yeah, because I still didn't know the way it ended with the Rangers. He couldn't move. I wasn't on the train. But after watching him in Detroit, had a good season, 47 points in 50 games.
Yeah,
played well, almost a point per game guy.
And you also have to factor in first probably like month or two, just getting back into the ice.
Exactly, he was rusty. Yeah. Really good season, 20 plus goals, and you saw a lot of good things. And I'm that's why I'm back on board now. And to your point too, he wants to be here. He wanted to be a Ranger towards the end there in Chicago. He got the opportunity. It didn't work out. And there's been reports from people around his camp and of course around the Rangers that both sides would be welcome. Both sides would welcome a reunion. I think Patrick Kane wants to kind of right a wrong. He wants revenge.
And like I said, he's a proven playoff guy. I mean, he like people are like, oh,
and that's what this team needs.
But he's proven that he can play in that. His game translate. Like, yeah, he's not going to body people and stuff, but his play style can play in those tight checking games and play in the big games. He can do it.
Yeah.
So he's someone. Yeah, I agree. I think we could get, but I think if we get him, I don't really think they're going to go that much money wise anywhere else. I mean, you think about what we need a right winger.
You get that in Kane, let's say.
I believe one of Othman or Berard will be on the third line with Kakko and Hedel. And then you're going to have to sign a fourth line center to play with a combination Brzezinski, Vesey, Rempe, or Edstrom.
Yeah.
I think maybe bring back Wenberg if he signs for cheap to play the fourth line.
I could see that. Wenberg was Wenberg was good last year. I
think people expected too much out of him, which he was never an offensive guy.
Yeah, and I think you can make the case people expected too much out of Roslovic just because those were the two moves.
Roslovic, I did expect him because they're throwing if he's playing top.
They were throwing him. Yeah.
Wenberg played his role, third line.
Oh yeah, he did. I think though from Wenberg's perspective, he got a little bit of a bad rap because he couldn't put the puck in the back of the net at times. but
I'd
that wasn't
be
always
okay with bringing him back if he signs kind of like a Gustafson deal where it's like cheap.
Yeah.
1 year, I'd do that. For him
Oh
to
yeah,
play
he was very, very good last year with getting pucks in and out of the zone. He did his job. You know, he got unlucky sometimes with not being able to score, but I'd be on board with bringing Wen back. I mean, you're talking about a fourth line center. That's not gonna. You still need playoff time. You still need your core to show up. Wenberg's not going to make or break if you win a cup next year or not.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening.
So yeah, I think third line will be pretty much set. I think that, you know, they're probably going to bring in someone for that. Whether it's again, Berard, Cooley will play probably with Kakko and what's his face, Hedel, or maybe they throw down Cooley to the fourth line, and then Othman comes in. I think that's more of an internal fix, getting that winger for the bottom six. I think they go out and sign a center for the fourth line role. Yeah. And then as far as the big move will probably end up being the that first line right winger spot. And then also I think like you're mentioning Patrick Kane. Who are some other guys you think?
This would be another big name, but that's Jonathan Marchessault. And the reason I say this is another guy that shows up. I don't
think he'd be that expensive either, too. As opposed to a lot of people talking about Gensel. I think the Rangers won't go in that direction just because of the money.
Yeah,
I'd be on board for him though.
I'd 100% be on board for Gensel. I mean, I was on board a couple months ago.
People like my thing is, yes, you want grit,
and he's good in the postseason too.
If your game translates to the playoffs, I don't care if you're gritty or not. If you can play your style and you're proven to produce, it doesn't matter. I think more so that has to be the bottom six guys. They need to play that 100%. Gritty style hockey.
And two with like you said with Gensel, like playoff guy, Patrick Kane playoff guy, Jonathan Marchessault obviously a year ago in Vegas won the Conn Smythe. Yeah. You look at his numbers that year. 13 goals, 12 assists, 25 points in the playoffs. In the Stanley Cup, in the 5-game series win and 4-1 over Florida, he had 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points in 5 games. He was really dominant, amazing. And that's a guy that's going to show up in the playoffs. Kane's going to show up. Gensel's going to show up. We know Gensel's going to show up. He scored a lot in 2022 against the Rangers. He scored a couple this year against us in Carolina. So those are guys that, you want grit, but you also need guys who are going to show up because guess who didn't show up this year? Well, Mika, Panarin, Kreider didn't show up in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Had the one monster game. So
he had the one game. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That's all. That's the only guys those guys didn't show up. And even Fox, too.
They also needed more scoring depth in the
third line. He was hurt.
Yeah, they needed guys on the third line to score. They didn't.
Well, you hope that Hedel coming back can provide more of that. You know, Hedel.
He was listen, he was arguably the best forward in 2022. So.
And you're asking a lot out of a guy to not play all year pretty much and just get thrown into playoff hockey.
Yeah.
So I'm taking Hedel's performance last year with a grain of salt, really. Doesn't really mean much. Give him full off season to get healthier. You know, Hedel's, if he's healthy, it's huge. And I think that's something too. You talk about the internally. I think that's something too that the Rangers view as an upgrade.
I think he's a player that could pop 30 even strength goals.
100%. And if you let's say you bring up Othman, you get a healthy Hedel.
And Hedel's a guy you didn't see last year at all. So that brings you some grit to the team.
Mm-hmm. So. Definitely. So Jonathan Marchessault, Patrick Kane, Gensel. You look at other options. That's where you get to like the Tyler Toffoli's of the world.
Then it's like a
Sam Reinhart.
Yeah. Oh, Reinhart's not happening.
Yeah, probably won't. But Frankie
I don't want Reinhart. Just for the money. And then I guess you can go to a step below that. Maybe guys are like a little more gritty, like Domi or like Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
Maybe they play a little more gritty, can play top 6, but top 9.
Vetrano could still be a name.
Well, Vetrano's not a free agent.
Well, I thought he...
No, he has another year. That could be a deadline move.
Oh. Here I thought he was...
No.
Yeah, no, they could... Yeah, that's right. He is...
So the forward fix, I think, can be addressed. You're going to obviously rely a lot on the younger guys, and then if you bring in a guy like Kane to play top 9, that should fix that. And then again, depending on how it all meshes, how your team's going, you can make adjustments at the deadline, because then you have some flexibility with Kakko where if you need an extra spot in the lineup, it's kind of trading a rental for a rental to upgrade because he's only got the 1 year on his contract. Mm-hmm. And then if you kind of go back, the goaltending is fine. Obviously, we don't even need to mention that. Quick was awesome.
And you got Quick back for another year, so you don't have to worry about
Shesterkin's the best goalie in the league. And then I think a big thing could be
extension,
defense.
though.
The extension will happen probably this summer. I wouldn't go over it. I think there's a limit where I would probably say no, just because if you look at the last couple of years, teams have been getting far with not so great goaltending. But again, I don't really want to talk about that because I think eventually they will resign him, and hopefully it'll be a little bit less than what we're expecting. I'm hoping 10 and a half.
Do you think Brady Tkachuk's just not happening?
No, that's not happening. There's no chance.
When I saw him celebrating for his brother, I was like, next year maybe celebrating with the Rangers.
They went out and got Allmark. They're gonna be a team that's gonna build around him. But I guess now the biggest thing, I think, maybe even bigger than the offense, I think it was also the defense where wait, am I frozen?
I've got you.
Okay, so
I can hear you. Yeah.
It's frozen, but I'll keep talking. A lot of times their defense wasn't able to, break out the puck well enough, and that obviously could contribute to the offense not having as many chances to score because your defensemen are struggling to hit those breakouts in the defensive zone and kind of getting worn down. Obviously, you bring Lindgren.
Sorry, what was that?
Would you bring back Lindgren?
Yeah, I mean, look, he gets banged up, but he doesn't miss much time. He plays hurt a lot. I think that's kind of
though. You think his playing hurt is affecting him at all?
Yeah, I mean,
and if he's constantly getting hurt, he's always playing hurt, which means he's not as good as he is. Then
I think him playing. I don't think he's affected as much playing hurt than others. Like for example, Fox. Like you could tell he was 100% hurt. Trouba as well.
Yeah, I mean
Lindgren. I think he could play hurt more than those other guys, and maybe it's because he plays hurt every game, so it's kind of.
And his game doesn't need as much. Like Fox is more. He needs that agility.
He also, offensively too. Lindgren's not going to provide much offense.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want, I agree. I think they'll probably resign them. So then your top four, I like. Personally, I'm not a big Keandre Miller fan. I think he's got a lot of holes in his game, but I mean, his offense.
I thought
I personally would love to see more offense out of him. We're not seeing it, but
yeah,
I think that's a solid top six, right? If you go Schneider, Miller, 100%. Lindgren, Fox, and then obviously then the bottom six is bottom pair is a huge question mark. Is I think we're keeping Trouba, and then do you want to throw a smaller guy out there like Jones, who might get beat up pretty good in the playoffs? I think maybe
I like Jones though. I like Jones because he provides speed. He's a puck moving defenseman.
I think they should get rid of him personally.
You think they should get rid of Jones
and replace him?
Well, both
with a more bigger type defenseman that can move the puck really well. He can move the puck, but I just don't think in the playoffs he's going to be able to handle the physicality. But that's going to be a move. Obviously, like we said, the middle six winger is going to be, I think, filled through internally, whether that's Othman and Berard. I think fourth line, you're going to go sign someone. First line, they're going to sign someone. And then I think the sixth defenseman, they're going to sign someone. Yeah. I don't really know many options. Maybe a guy like Ekman Larson, Mikkola, maybe, if you want to bring him back. But yeah. A lot of people are talking about Chris Tanev.
What if you go like you move on? Let's just say you move on from Trouba. And then you have Zach Jones.
Then you can spend and get someone like Chris Tanev, I think, where a lot of people are talking about him.
And would you be okay with Zach Jones then slotting in? Because I thought last year when Trouba was out, Jones was better.
Financially, I think that they wouldn't still, because if you think about it, you're bringing someone kind of like Trouba, like Tanev, to replace him. You still have Jones there. But again, maybe with a better defenseman Jones playing with, maybe it'll be better, because I think Jones would struggle a lot with Trouba. A lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the problem. Anybody struggles with Trouba.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw Miller struggle with him.
I don't know.
Zach Jones would probably struggle with him. And that's to where I think, I don't know, I thought Miller offensively needs to be better. Defensively, though, I thought last year he wasn't very good. I thought he got better.
He made some bad mistakes in the Florida series.
No, he did. I agree. But I think like some
Schneider.
of it.
I actually really like Schneider. I think he's going to be a really good defenseman.
Who, Schneider? Yeah. Schneider's very I think he's too. Got some offensive upside
I think he's already the second best defenseman on the team.
Yeah. How would you? And to Fox, like he was playing hurt. Like he's gonna come back. He'll be fine.
Yeah, we gotta hope.
I'm not really as worried with the defense as much as I am just with
scoring.
They're not moved. What do you say?
What, like you're more concerned with like scoring?
No, yeah, I'm more concerned with just when it comes to the postseason. I'm more concerned with this core than anything. Yeah. Like I think we were both on board that this core needed a little bit of a shakeup, but they're clearly not going to do.
I guess it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, they can do as much as they can, but if those three guys,
you know. And the way you help that is bringing in guys that are good in the playoffs.
Let's be honest, though. Like, I think Trocheck is better than Zibanejad, and I think Lafreniere is. He might be better than Panarin and Kreider as a playoff performer. So
you Trocheck?
I'm saying Trocheck and Lafreniere, I think, are the core guys now for playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trocheck's.
Those are your two best players in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Trocheck is your.
Kreider still comes through, but I mean, I think overall, I think Lafreniere and Trocheck are the guys that you're going to want to be in the big time playoff moments. I don't have any faith in Panarin, and then Kreider and Zibanejad. It's kind of just a crapshoot. Depends what game shows up.
Yeah, Trocheck exactly is what you want in the playoffs. Physical, gritty, good offensively.
I think right now he's the best player on the team, forward-wise.
Yeah, all around, like most well-rounded game. Yeah, I'd say Trocheck. I mean, I think many people could you could probably make the case he could be the captain right now.
They're not going to strip
because they won't do it. But I'm saying, like in a world where Trouba got, let's say they moved on.
I love Vincent Trocheck. He's an awesome player.
Yeah, he's been one of the best contracts that I think you've probably. I mean, I'm one of the better contracts in the league
in the NHL. Yeah, not just for Drury.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I guess he was able to get a jail free card on the freaking Goodrow contract where he didn't have to give up anything, so he got lucky with that. But
yeah.
So,
any other like Stamkos probably won't happen.
No, they're not going to really spend big.
So you don't. What do you think their biggest move is? What do you think happens? Do you think Kane happens? Because I'm 100%. I think Kane happens.
I think the Kane will happen, and then they'll end up signing a bigger defenseman. And again, I think maybe they get Wenberg back. So
yeah, and look, then if that's what you do, right? You look at this roster and you would say, all right, you brought back Wenberg, you brought in another defenseman. Let's say healthy Fox. You bring in Kane, healthy Kane. You roll into this team next year, healthy in the playoffs, right? You like what Lafreniere, Trocheck can do. We know that.
Yeah.
Kane, we know what he can do in the playoffs, right? You get another guy that can play well in the playoffs. You get, Hedl back fully healthy, which is almost like a signing in itself because you barely had him this year.
Yeah. Cooley, another season under his belt.
Yeah, another season under Cooley's belt.
Depends what happens with Kaapo.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Kaapo.
I guess Othman is kind of still a question mark.
Yeah. I think you've seen some things in the couple games that he's played. I think you've seen some things out of Othman.
I mean, he's so raw. I don't really have an opinion on him. I just know he's gritty and he can hopefully play top six.
You need to see more out of him. It's similar to Cooley going into this year. You needed to see what Cooley was. I mean, he played 2 games last year.
Yeah, I really liked him. Cooley was awesome.
Yeah, he was great this year.
And then obviously, third line, fourth line is what happens with Rempe and Edstrom.
Yeah,
see what they do with that.
And I'm very interested to see what Rempe does next year. I think he mentioned it. He wants to become a good hockey player. Like he doesn't want to just be a goon. Yeah. If Rempe comes in and he's shaped up other angles of his game, other parts of his game, he could be with his size. Am I gonna buying into the Rempe hype?
I don't know.
Being more than just a goon.
Maybe it could be a decent third line player one day. Who knows?
But he'll also be a guy too, like playoffs wise. If you need grit, you could plug in him. With Edstrom, which is kind of what the Rangers did this year with Rempe, not with Edstrom. But and then that's kind of how you look at the roster, which It's like, all right, solid. And then, Kreider, Mika, Panarin, you need those guys to show up. You know Igor's going to show up. And and then whatever you do at the deadline too. Right? Maybe let's just say they move on from Kakko and bring in another name at the deadline, and that's an upgrade, right? That could happen. That's all the way in March, but it's kind of where things stand with after free agency.
Should be, listen, like they're
going to have a chance. They'll be back in the playoffs. They'll have a chance.
Closer than what you think. I mean, they need to make one or two moves to, shore up some holes, whether that's first line winner or on the back end on defense. But, obviously if you have Igor, you can win the cup with him, with any team. So that's that. And then I'd say Panarin, I'll say this, I have no hope.
For the playoffs, right?
No, yeah. I mean, I don't really care.
Look, he's a great regular season player. That's just what he is. I think we've got to come to that realization with Panarin.
I don't have any hope from him. I still have some hope for Zibanejad because he has shown in the past that he has been good in the playoffs. So
yeah, I don't know.
Do you have anything on the draft?
Yeah, there's a couple guys I've done some
30th pick. This person won't play in the Rangers. There's a chance this person will never play for the Rangers. So
they'll never play a single game. But couple centers, defensemen.
I'd say this. I think they need to kind of replenish the defensive side of their prospect pool. They don't really have much. They have Fortescue and
if you look at the future, if you look at the future too of this current defense core, like Lindgren's not going to be here forever.
Yeah,
Trouba's not going to be forever.
He'll be gone
eventually. Eventually those are guys you're going to have to replace. So Charlie Ellick, defenseman, plays for the Brandon Wheat Kings now.
Maybe they go for a little bit big. Maybe they try to emulate someone like Schneider and Trouba. I don't really know much about the guys at the end of the first round defenseman wise, but you can see some of them going for. I could see them going for a little bit of a bigger defenseman.
Yeah, I could see that too. And like you said, the prospect pool they have right now isn't great, and they could use some help. Charlie Ellick, 6'3", 200 pounds, plays obviously in the WHL.
Yeah. You know what I haven't heard, actually? Speaking of the prospect pool, I haven't really heard much about Perreault. I assume he's going back, but I haven't heard anything official.
Yeah, I haven't heard much either ever since the season ended.
Because I know Smith, his line mate, said he was playing, so he signed. He's playing with the Sharks. And then I know Leonard, the other kid that he played with, is already committed to going back to BC.
You think so? Let's just say Perreault goes.
He's not in the NHL next year, so
yeah,
he'll either be in Hartford or in Boston.
So what you think earliest 2026, 2025,
26 season he'll come. I think he'll be in the team the following year.
Is he? Do you think he lives up to the hype, Perreault?
I don't know. I don't think he's a great skater, but he's got great hockey IQ, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I hope he does, though.
Yeah. So Charlie Ellick is a defenseman that could potentially good along the boards, wins puck battles, good against the rush, are just some of the things that you've seen from some scouting reports. In terms of just other guys like forwards, Dean Letourneau plays over in Ontario right now. Moves 6'6", 6'7", 214. So he's tall, but he moves well for his size. So, he's playing at a prep school in Ontario. We'll see. Again, the chance he'll never play, but that's a name. Igor Surin, 6'1", 192 pounds. It's an interesting name. This is actually a guy that I've done a little bit more research on. One of the youngest players in the draft. He almost wasn't eligible. August birthday, so he almost wasn't eligible for 2025. Almost was eligible for 2025, not this year. So he's on the younger end, but very, very one of the more physical players. One of the more very competitive physical. Got a very good skill set. They consider him kind of a guy that would be good for like the playoffs. It's kind of some of the things that I've read up on him, but some of the negatives: needs better decision making. At times, could play hero puck. Goes into traffic. Not always the smartest player, but he's young, so that'll obviously get better, hopefully with time. Cole Broadway is another name. Plays in the OHL, 6'2", 209 pounds, good two-way center. Drives to the net, generates chances. Chance to learn under Kreider. So that's a name. And then Ryder Ritchie's right wing, 6 foot, 176 pounds. He is got high offensive upside, good skill set. So his numbers, some of his numbers were impressive from the last couple of years.
Dude. I think that I don't think it matters, to be honest.
No, yeah, those are just some names that I've just
who the hell
I've
knows?
seen kind of thrown
draft a
around
goalie.
Draft a goalie.
Yeah.
Surprised all. Draft a goalie. Igor Shesterkin's replacement.
I don't know, man. I think that for me,
they got to prepare. You lose Igor in free agency next year, and then you bring up this goalie after 1 year.
The draft isn't such a big deal for me, you know.
No, it's not either. It's not. It's only a big deal when you have a lottery pick, or when you win the lottery. The Lafreniere, Kakko years, those years meant more. Because all year, that's what you looked forward to was the draft.
Got
got
anything else?
No, nothing more.
We kind of hit over everything. You know, I'm excited for this week. It's a big week for the Rangers. Draft again doesn't matter, but curious to see who they bring in and see if they make any trades. But I guess
you can never go wrong in the draft. Whoever they sign, you always get people saying, "Oh, this is a really good pick."
Yeah.
So everybody will say it's a really good pick. Can't go wrong with the draft.
So what are your predictions here for the offseason? You're thinking
Patrick Kane? I think they go get. That's my biggest prediction. I'll say they go get Kane, and if not Kane, I think they go make a strong run at Jonathan Marchessault because they need playoff players, and I think Drury knows that. So those are my top two. I think Kane. Now, who I'd rather, I'd say the Marchessault. I think he's better, but in terms of what I actually think happens, Kane, and that's my biggest prediction.
I think they're going to get
one prediction for you.
I think they're going to get Gensel. I think they're going to overpay and get Gensel.
And I want to make that clear. Like there's a lot of players I would take over Kane, but like Kane is somebody I would like and somebody I think happens. I don't know.
I think they're going to.
They made a strong run at Gensel at the deadline. I could see that happening.
I think they're going to overpay for him, but we'll see. I mean, I'd be open to. I think Kane. I would like that. Kane, Marchessault, or Gensel would be the three guys I'd like. But then they might go with a cheaper option, like I was talking before. Maybe like a guy like Toffoli, or Toffoli would be a little bit more than that, but in a range of guys like Domi or Bertuzzi. So yeah,
Toffoli. I could see Toffoli too. It's kind of like the second tier in terms of names, I guess. But I think by next week, Kane will be a Ranger again.
We shall see. Like I said, should be interesting. Next couple of days for the Rangers, and the off season starts now. So 2025 is our year.
What was that? This is our year.
2025 is our year.
I can't say that just yet.
Buying back.
Because I'd said 20. We said I really thought this was our year.
But we're gonna listen, it's our year, but we're not thinking it's our year. So it is going to be our year because we're not thinking it's our year. 2025
is our year. If not now, when? Right?
Yeah.
2025, the year of the Rangers. You know what's sad? We're not even in 2025 right now.
We will be in 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. 6 months. We're not even out of June yet. Anyway, that'll do it. Episode 34 in the books. Make sure to please like and subscribe. We'll probably have episodes, maybe a live stream up next week with free agency going on, depending on how.
If anything big happens, we'll go live.
If anything big happens, we'll go live. Like, what warrants a live stream? Like Kane,
a big signing or a trade.
Okay, so
I'll make a video about the guy that they draft.
You can make a video. I'll probably do like an instant reaction, maybe of a guy they drafted. We'll do nothing major, but if a big signing happens, we'll go live, do videos, all that stuff, or a trade or anything that's big. So that'll do it. We'll see you then, and let's go Rangers.